Section 8.4, question P37. So we have a medical researcher who reads this study and sees that, or I guess sees this report by the pharmaceutical company that a medication is 6%, and the researcher doesn't trust the company, is the implied meaning here. The researcher is pretty sure that the side effects have a much higher rate of occurrence, and so she decides to get this random sample, choosing an alpha level of 5%, and is trying to figure out this issue of power. So power is going to be the ability to reject the null if the null really isn't true. So assuming that the null really isn't true, of course you want to be able to reject it, but in order to do that you need a big enough sample, you need some other factors going for you. And so the question is she going to have more power if the true proportion is roughly 8% or if it's about 10%? Notice that in either case, the pharmaceutical company's report is false. So in either case, the null hypothesis of the proportion being 6% is false. But the question is, will her sample pick up this falseness? So this is getting into the concept of power, very important. If our test isn't powerful enough, we're not likely to reject the null even though the null isn't true. So we really want that power. We can get more power by increasing sample size. We could raise the level of significance, but then that causes some issues with whether or not our research is trustworthy. Typically 5% is a nice level. Or if the true proportion is higher, the greater the difference between the true proportion and the null hypothesis proportion, the more likely it is that we'll pick up on that with our sample. So if, for example, it was 50% developing side effects, it's very, very likely that we would find a result that was statistically significantly different than the 6%. Whereas even 10%, hopefully we would get enough results. Our sample size would be large enough and we'd get a sample that has a proportion that would show us this is false. 8%, we could also do it, but we'd probably need a larger sample. So we're going to have more power with the 10%.